This fall, we're getting ON1 Photo Raw 2025. There's some really cool features that are coming to this version of Photo Raw that I think if you're on an older version or if you haven't transitioned over to Photo Raw yet, you may reconsider. In this video, I'm going to go over a lot of those highlights, the key features that are coming, so stay tuned. So this fall, we are getting Photo Raw 2025, and there are some really cool features that I'm excited for, and I want to share those with you here in today's content. Now, I'm going to go over the features that we're getting at the release of 2025 this fall, as well as some features that are coming later in the 2025 release. Now, I don't know when later is. Later could be April of 25, it could be summer of 25. I don't really know, but ON1 has mentioned that there are some things that are going to be coming after the release, and there's some things in the latter portion of the release that I think are going to complete the software and are extremely helpful. So we're going to dive into those. Now, before we get too far into the content, my name's Chris. I am a photo enthusiast as well as a photographer. I use ON1 Photo Raw for a lot of my work, my personal work, as well as some paid work. I am an ON1 affiliate or partner, and I do make commissions off of every sale for people who use my discount code FreeWillPhotos20, or if you use my affiliate links down in the description box below. That's at no extra cost to you, and I bring the content because I really do enjoy using this software, and I don't recommend something that I don't use myself. With that being said, ON1 has not paid me to tell you anything about this particular content. I'm really just sharing it because I think that it's important for users to understand what is available to them on the market so that you can edit your photos and get them out into the world. And that's the whole reason this channel exists, and also the reason why I'm bringing you information about Photo Raw 2025 as well as other programs. I do have a bias, because I enjoy using Photo Raw 2024 and all the other versions that I've used, and I do look forward to using ON1 Photo Raw 2025. I want you to know that everything that I share here is going to be just pure information, some opinion on my thoughts, but if you can see through my opinion and just gather the information that you need, so that way you can make a decision on if you should upgrade or if you should purchase a new license to Photo Raw 2025. In the description box below, there's a link that'll take you to a product page. Again, it is an affiliate link, but it's the early bird or pre-release web page that you can click on, get some information about the new version of Photo Raw 2025. And if you want to purchase it, then you can go ahead and do so through that page. And again, I do make a small commission, and I appreciate everyone who uses that as a way of saying thank you for me bringing you this information. Now, this is likely going to be a longer video because I am going to be covering a lot of the features or all of the features, and I put chapter markers down below, so feel free to click around to find the thing that is most interesting to you. But I do recommend that you listen to the entire feature list because there are some things that are working together with the other things, and if you jump over that other thing, you may just get confused. So that's up to you, not something that you have to do. You make your own choice. You get to choose your own journey when it comes to this video. So the big question that I get is, how much is ON1 Photo Raw going to set me back? And before I dive into answering those questions, I will explain the two versions of ON1 Photo Raw that are available, because there's pricing appropriate based off of the version that you are purchasing. So there's the max version, which works like a plugin as well as a standalone. So if you want to access ON1 Photo Raw through Photoshop, Lightroom, Affinity Photo, anything like that, then you're going to want to get the max version. And if you don't care to do any of that, then you can get the basic version or the base version, and these are the pricing models. All right. So for the ON1 Photo Raw Max, again, that can be used as a plugin. If you're upgrading from any previous version of ON1 Photo Raw, then it's going to be $149.99. If you are a new user to ON1 Photo Raw as a whole, then you'll pay $169.99, and that gets you access to the entire version of ON1 Photo Raw, and you own it forever. These are one-time payments, by the way. Now, if you don't care to use any of the plugins, then you'll pay $80 for the upgrade if you're coming from any previous version of ON1 Photo Raw. And if you are new to ON1, then it's going to be $99.99 or $100. And again, these are one-time payments. Now, if you happen to have the ON1 Everything subscription, then just make sure that your subscription is up to date. You're going to get this update or upgrade, whatever. Like, that's the whole point of paying for a subscription. So you don't have to worry about paying for additional things, and you'll just be able to download the software. Now, for those of you who don't have Photo Raw 2024.5, if you upgrade or purchase ON1 for the first time, then you will get 2024.5 when you pre-order Photo Raw 2025 until 2025 is available for release or for downloading and installing, all that good stuff. There's also going to be a preset pack that's coming. I won't talk too much about that because I don't have a whole lot of information about it, so I don't want to waffle on about something I don't have information on. So this fall, the generative tools that we have coming to ON1 Photo Raw are Gen Crop and Gen Erase. Now, the way that Gen Crop works is if maybe you want to recompose your image, you can expand some of the corners or the sides, and it's going to use AI local to your machine in order to compute what needs to go there. And that's right, local to your machine. You don't need internet to get in on any of this action. All you need is the Photo Raw, download it to your computer, and you'll be good to go. Then there's Gen Erase, and that is as simple as painting over something that you don't want in your image, and it's going to erase it for you using AI, and it's going to fill it in with some information based off of what's in the image and what the AI thinks is the best backfill for this. And again, you don't need to use the internet to do this. You also don't have to pay for tokens or anything of that sort. So really a huge win there. Now, both of these tools aren't like brand new to the editing space. We've seen this in previous software or other programs. Luminar Neo and Photoshop, they do offer these exact same tools, but it's nice to see it coming to Photo Raw 2025. Now, when I get my hands on the actual software, you know I'm going to be doing some testing, so please stay tuned. You'll see that. Now, depth masks are extremely exciting for me to see in Photo Raw, and if they're implemented well, I'm really going to be using this tool a lot. Now, for those of you who don't know what a depth mask is, essentially think about AI looking at your image and figuring out the things that are closest to the focal plane and the furthest from the focal plane, and then being able to apply effects based off of how you photograph the image. This is huge, and Photoshop actually has depth mask built into it, and this is a very powerful tool for color grading. I'm looking forward to testing this out and seeing this implemented in this this coming release of Photo Raw. And I think that it's something that will be used a lot, especially when we start combining this with other masking types like luminosity masking, or if we want to remove something from a mask based off of how far the depth is. You could also use this with dynamic contrast to really kind of map in where your contrast is going across the image and take it away from areas that it doesn't really need to be based off of how much is in focus. This is also extremely helpful with the lens blur tool, which is really powerful, but masking that around your subject is going to be a little bit of a challenge. So depth mask, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to get my hands on them. And when I do, I'm going to bring a lot of content right here to Free Will Photos. So another tool that I'm excited to see coming to Photo Raw this fall is the Edit Color tool. Now, this is amazing. I've used something very similar to this inside of Capture One, and combining this with some of the other features that are coming this fall, I think it's going to be a huge game changer to the way that we edit our images. And this is really to rival the point color inside of Lightroom, as well as the color editor inside of Capture One. So both of those programs have fantastic flexibility in manipulating, modifying, or adjusting the color. And now we're going to have that same capability baked in to ON1 Photo Raw, so you don't have to go to these other software. I'm really excited to see this coming to ON1 Photo Raw, so I can't wait to get my hands on the new software so I can test this particular feature out and really showcase what you can do with modifying colors in your image using this tool. Now, if for some reason ON1 seems overwhelming to you and you would just love someone to be there to look over your shoulder and kind of guide you through some things when it comes to using ON1 Photo Raw, consider checking out my website and joining me for a one-on-one coaching session. This is where I can answer specific questions that you have about the software as best as I can, teaching you how to use it to get the most out of it for your workflow and for your photography style and genre. Now, if you don't want to do one-on-one coaching, but you want something that's a little bit more mapped out and you are trying to learn how to use ON1 Photo Raw for the first time because you're going to get a license to 2025, well, consider purchasing one of my basics course over on my website. That's going to be a mapped out program where you learn the basics of using ON1 Photo Raw to edit your images. And if you have questions about either one of those options, then leave it in the comment section or send me an email at freewillphotos@gmail.com, or you can go over to the website and use the contact form and ask your questions there. So before I cover this particular feature, I don't have much information, but the information that I did receive from ON1 is that it's going to automatically detect and remove sensor dust, power lines, and people in the background of your image. Now, here's my thoughts on that. I think that this is going to be very helpful in expediting cleaning up images, especially if you are a Sony user and sensor dust is just a part of our life. Like, it is a problem. We have to clean up sensor dust. That's not ON1's fault. ON1 is helping us overcome that challenge. Now, everyone has sensor dust, right? Even if you don't know that you have it, it's there. Now, if you're shooting at lower depth of fields, then or lower apertures, then you probably won't see it as frequently. But for those of us who shoot at f11, f16, then you definitely start to see it. Even at f8, you start to see it. So I welcome the sensor dust. I'm okay with the power lines. But the people in the background, I kind of have some reservations. Specifically, if you are a photojournalist or if you're photographing sports, like, part of photographing an event as it's unfolding is definitely having people in the background. And sometimes there may be power lines or cables or something that are just a part of what's happening in the environment. Now, based off of what you're doing, you may or may not be able to edit those out to keep them true to the story. Now, I know a lot of sports photographers use the crop tool, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be able to crop, but what I hope this particular tool is more like a toggle for each of these items. So if you turn it on, and then you can select what you want to automatically remove from the image. So sensor dust, I think we can just leave that on. Honestly, I would love for ON1 to do a auto detect of sensor dust at import and then just get rid of it. because we almost never want sensor dust in our images. And, it could have a little icon that just says, has like a sensor dust. I don't know, whatever. We could figure that out. But power lines and removing people from the background, I would like to have the control over when ON1 decides to do that, because it may choose to remove people that I intentionally put into the background to tell the story or to help really draw the contrast between what's going on in that particular image. So I am excited to see how this is going to be incorporated into the software, but I really would like to have control as the editor and photographer, because the software should help us expedite our editing. It should not overtake our editing and leave us wishing that it didn't do something that it did. So if you like to collect your images across your hard drive and you have your photos, scattered across a ton of folders, thousands of them, and you want to consolidate all the images of a bird or all of your images that you have taken of a particular football player or basketball player or whatever it may be, well, Target Albums is going to be a really quick way of being able to set an album as the target. And then when you click on your images that you want to send to that album, it's just going to send it there. I think that this is going to be extremely helpful for the people who use albums. And if you're not using albums, this may be an opportunity for you to start thinking about using albums. Now, if you're coming from a different software, this is going to be a huge opportunity for you to organize your images very, very strategically inside of ON1. And I recommend using it. I use albums in my workflow. You can even nest them. I have a video about albums on my channel. So if you want to watch that, you can definitely go check that out. But ultimately, Target Albums, for the people who use them, you know how big of a deal this is. And if you don't use albums, then I highly, highly recommend that you try using albums to organize your images so you can find your stuff a little bit faster. So stacking is a really straightforward feature that ON1 is going to be adding that I think it should have been there, but that's neither here nor there. It's coming this fall. And essentially what you get to do is take a series of images that look very similar to one another, and you can group them into their own stack. And what this helps you with is organizing a folder of images. So maybe you have 100 images and you really shot 10 different looks, and you want to put all 10 of those looks into their own individual stacks. So then you end up with 10 groups of photos inside of your folder. That is extremely helpful, especially when you're working with a client and you want to show them like, hey, look, this is what we photographed today, and here's in this group, which ones do you like? This is really helpful for proofing if you're not using a website to do that. But if you're using the software on the day and you want to show them, or you have them come to your studio, whatever, stacking is really helpful. But where I think that this could be helpful, and I'll know this when I get my hands on the software, is in the Smart Organize. Now, if you're familiar with ON1 Smart Organize, it is this AI-based algorithm, if you will, that looks at your images and it gathers similar images into these folders. But the problem with that is it was really not very helpful for people like me, who I may photograph similar looks, and the AI does a good job at grouping certain things, but it didn't actually do a good job at allowing me to navigate it after I let Smart Organize do its thing. It's very confusing. I stopped using it. But now that we can stack images, I look forward to seeing that incorporated with the Smart Organize, because I think that's what this particular tool, the Smart Organize, was actually missing. It was missing this stacking feature after it organized your images. Instead of making folders, it should have been stacking the images, so that way you can easily navigate through different looks in a session. So I look forward to this. We'll find out. Now, the final thing that's going to be coming to Photo Raw 2025 this fall when it is released is improved new Canvas dialog box. Now, I don't have a whole lot of information about this, and this isn't like earth shattering, but for those of you who work in compositing, or if you are stacking images of any sort, being able to create a canvas based off of a preset size is going to be extremely helpful, because let's say you work in 7,000 by 4,000, but that's not the image sizing, or at least the size of the images that you photographed. Then having that as a preset for whatever reason, 7,000 by 4,000, that's what you're working in, and now you have that as a preset. You can click it and start editing your images or creating your work of art. This is something that you could do in Photoshop, and I think that now we're starting to see that trickle into ON1, which is yet again another way to kind of move from the Adobe information or the Adobe subscription model into the ON1 systems, which again you purchase as a standalone software. Beyond this fall, when Photo Raw 2025 is released, there's going to be more updates coming to the program, and one of the first ones is Generative Replace. Now, this is allowing users to seamlessly add new elements to their photos by describing what they want in that particular area. Now, this is no different than what we've seen in Photoshop and Luminar, where you can kind of highlight an area and then type in a prompt, and AI is going to do its best to fill that in. What I'm not sure on is if this is going to need an internet connection or not, like the Gen Erase and the Generative Crop. However, if they do make this where you don't need an internet connection, this is going to be phenomenal, and I think it's going to really set the standard for what is possible, especially if the output of this particular Generative Replace is actually good. So I look forward to seeing how that gets implemented, but that does come further down the line after Photo Raw 2025 is released. I don't know when, and for the rest of the items that I'm going to be covering after the release, I don't know when they're going to be released. So another tool that's coming later after the release of Photo Raw 2025 is Super Select AI Erase. Now, the way that this works is like Super Select AI, where you can click and point and then add something to a mask. Well, you're going to be able to click, point, and erase something from an image. So if there's a person in the background and you get a pretty good mask around that person, it's going to allow you to erase the person. Now, imagine this is going to be combined with Generative Fill. Generative Erase. Because the way that I think this is going to work, this is pure speculation, by the way. So the way that you are having to use Generative Erase right now is with a brush tool where you paint over an area and then you check a block and it does its work. Well, with this, instead of using a brush, you're going to be able to click something and then click the erase button or whatever. This is going to give you a more precise mask, and I think it's going to ultimately help with those really, really hard places that you want to erase and maybe you can't. So I look forward to seeing how this is implemented, but this is almost a no-brainer based off of the tools that they're bringing into 2025. So I think that this is going to be really, really awesome. It's going to speed up the time. And just imagine if all you had to do was hover over something with your mouse to create the mask and then hit erase. I think that that's extremely helpful. So I look forward to seeing how that gets implemented. Now, being completely honest, I don't have a whole lot of information about document templates, but what it sounds like you're going to be able to do is create a layout and then save that and be able to open those before you start to import pictures. So I think what we're seeing, if this is the way that it's going to work, is Photo Raw is going beyond just a raw photo editor, but what it's allowing you to do is to create designs similar to what we can do with Photoshop and Affinity Photo, and then embed your images into those designs. So maybe ON1 is starting to branch out into the creative design space. Only time will tell. I'm not entirely sure, but that's what I get when I hear the word document templates. We'll see. So another feature that's coming to Photo Raw 2025 later down the line is face restoration in edit. Now, this is supposed to bring cutting edge facial enhancements to Photo Raw 2025. And I'll be honest, I'm a little skeptical when it comes to this one because TaxSharp AI has not been a tool that I have personally been able to use on a majority of my images when I did happen to miss focus. Now that could be user error, that could be my problem. However, I will say that I will be very interested in seeing how this works out. Now, if it's saying, well, if you use a lot of no noise AI and it made the face look a little waxy and it wants to restore that and put detail, and you know, it works alongside Portrait AI, which I think is also due for an update, which this would be a great update if it works well for Portrait AI. But beyond that, I'm not quite sure how to take this. I'm not saying that it's going to be bad. I'm just saying I don't know what to expect from this, and I look forward to seeing it and then making a video determining if I personally think that it is a useful tool or not. But we'll see. Editing camera profiles is something I am truly excited for with Photo Raw 2025. This is something that if you are on the fence of switching from Lightroom to ON1 Photo Raw, if this is implemented well, I think that the edit camera profiles is going to be the thing that really does set ON1 apart from other editors, because right now only Lightroom and Camera Raw have the camera calibration tool, which allows you to adjust the saturation or whatever of the red, greens, and blues down to the pixel level. And I'm not talking about the color enhancer or the channel mixer or anything like that. I'm talking like the way that ON1 is rendering the colors in the raw image. This is something that I know a lot of photographers who use Lightroom, they use this tool a lot to get different looks. And if you've ever like looked at people who edit in Lightroom and you're like, man, how do they get their colors to look that way? They are probably selecting something in the color calibration and really manipulating the colors there. So now we are really getting the capability to take control of the colors inside of ON1 Photo Raw in a very powerful way. I am truly excited to see this come because, you know, we all know the story of Adobe, Lightroom, Photoshop, all that good stuff. And there's a lot of people looking to switch, but the camera calibration tool has just not been available in any other software to the best of my knowledge. If you know of a program where the color calibration tool or camera calibration is available beyond Lightroom and Photo Raw or Camera Raw, then please comment that down below. But this is going to be one of my favorite tools, I think, when it comes to styling an image and really taking an edit to a whole new level inside of Photo Raw. So I look forward to getting my hands on this, testing this out, using it on my images, and bringing lots and lots of content to the channel centered around the camera profile capability of editing. I can't tell you how excited I am to see that coming to Photo Raw. I think that's probably one of my most excited options, because combining this, or one of my most desired features for Photo Raw, because what we're getting is the edit color and the camera raw profile editor. Colors are going to be easily manipulated, and you're going to be able to get looks that you weren't able to get in previous versions of ON1 Photo Raw. So if you don't have ON1, then this may be the time to switch. And if you have an older version of ON1, this, I think, is a tool regardless of what your computer system is like. I think that this tool is well worth the upgrade. One of the last tools that's coming to ON1 Photo Raw later after the release is the improved perspective correction. Now, I don't shoot a lot of architecture or things where I really need to change the perspective, but for those of you who are using keystoning, this could be a really crucial and helpful method, if you will, of correcting your lines and things of that sort. So I would be curious to know. Let me know in the comment section below who is using the current keystoning, and if you find it valuable or helpful, and what improvements do you want to see, because I'm not, this is something that's outside of my depth. I do know what keystoning is. I just don't have a need to use it because of the way that I photograph and things that I shoot. But I would be curious to hear what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. Okay, so there you have it. ON1 Photo Raw 2025, new features coming at you this fall. Now, if you're using an older version of ON1 Photo Raw and you want to move into the newer version, I think that this is well worth it, especially if you're using 2022 or 2023 and you want to jump to 2025. Using that upgrade pricing is going to be really, really good for you, okay? The cost comparison, return on investment, if you will, to purchasing and jumping your software 3 versions or 2 versions, depending on where you're coming from, is a great savings for the features and the quality of life improvements that you're getting in the software overall. So I highly recommend it, but I get it. Not everyone needs to upgrade. And I don't want to be the person who forces you or pushes you into upgrading. I just want to share the information and hopefully help you make a decision. If you got questions, leave it in the comment section. You can email me. You can use the contact form over at freewillphotos.com, and I will do my best to answer your questions. And if there's some very specific questions, you can go direct to ON1 and ask them as well. So with that, I want to bid you guys good day, and I look forward to hearing your comments down below and answering whatever questions you may have. So until next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.